So good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Careers at the United Nations. We're thrilled to have you with us today. My name is Jessica Weiss. I'm the Program Director of the Women in Energy Initiative at Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy. For those of you who may be new to our community, Women in Energy is dedicated to advancing women's leadership and participation across the energy sector. Our mission is to create an inclusive community that connects, supports, and elevates women working in energy. We do that through coaching, professional development, and events like today's. We aim to foster meaningful dialogue and open pathways to energy, whether it's in policy, technology, finance, or through international organizations like the UN. If you'd like to get involved, we encourage you to join our mailing list. We encourage you to join our mailing list, attend future events, or reach out to us to collaborate. For more information for us is on our website. I will leave that. You can just direct message or put in the Q&A if you'd like more information. Before we get started, a few quick housekeeping notes. Today's discussion is being recorded and will be posted on the Women in Energy website. Captions are available if you would like to use live translation. And we've incorporated several of your questions into our dialogue for today's event, but we will allow the last 10 or 15 minutes for live Q&A. So if you have questions, please submit them through the Q&A function. We are delighted to partner today with Discover Model United Nations, the DMUN, as we will use it from now moving forward. We'd like to extend a special thank you to Alexa and the DMUN team for their collaboration in organizing this event. Over the next 53 minutes, our speakers will help demystify the UN system, its mission, its structure, and recruitment pathways, and share practical insights into how professionals and students alike can build meaningful international careers. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our incredible group of panelists. Alexa Dominique Pascual, Head Delegation Coordinator and Youth Representative for the United Nations Tax Negotiation Committee at the DMUN. Nadine Soto, the Associate Program Officer at the Department of Economic and Social Affairs at the United Nations. Mahmoud Almasri, Associate Human Resource Officer at the United Nations. And our moderator, Amjad Bhatti, Senior Associate at BlackRock and a Women in Energy Fellow. Thank you all again for being here. And with that, I will hand it over to MJ.
Thank you, Jess. Welcome, everyone. We're very excited to have you. In today's session, we're going to go over a plethora of questions that you guys have all submitted to learn a little bit more about careers at the UN and DMUN. So to get started, let's work on DMUN first. So this to Alexa, what is DMUN and how does it work with the United Nations?
Yeah, so DMUN is a youth-led NGO. So we represent youth insights at the United Nations and high-level summits particularly. We actually started as a model United Nations program, and we found our way through advocacy because of our partnership with the major group for children and youth, which is the actual youth constituency of the United Nations. And through MGCY, we actually collaborate with the UN Youth Office of the Secretary General. So basically what we do is we do advocacy. We also do consultancy. We deliver projects. One of the projects that we actually did for the UN High Level Political Forum is we actually had like bilateral we had bilateral meetings with different intergovernmental organization members. So we had a bilateral meeting with the University of Peace and the Organization of Francophone States. And we basically presented a youth observer program to all of these IGOs. And also we do interventions and high-level meetings and multi-stakeholder hearings. We were also invited to the Intergovernmental Committee for Tax, representing Major Group of Children and Youth and the DMUN Foundation, where we deliver different statements and insights about the prevention of tax litigation, for example. And we also do, and we also consult we also consult the youth office as well. And we're also doing projects about AI, about the prevention of trafficking with the use of AI. So basically, in a nutshell, we and the DMUN Foundation represent youth at the United Nations in all multilateral organizations. We're also partners with the World Bank and the IMF, and we did a project with them as well. So we basically represent young voices in all of these high level forums.
That's great. Very multifaceted answer you had there. But specifically, what's your role within the DMUN and how did you get involved?
Right. So I got involved through the major group of children and youth. So I was a member for MGCY for about 2 years now, and that's when I founded DMUN Foundation. We actually serve as a tax committee for the major group of children and youth. And the thing is, actually got involved by networking a lot, and I delivered new ideas on how to expand the youth space. So that's how I founded DMUN. And it's such a really great opportunity as well to actually to actually meet world leaders, because we were also invited to the UNGA, where we got to collaborate with different stakeholders, and we got to collaborate with different UN offices and to meet different people coming in from around the world. And it's also like a learning experience. I know we do statements and consulting and all that, but it's really great to learn everything about the UN. It's such a really great space. It's a great space to start, like, to get involved with all these multilateral institutions, because we actually teach you a lot. And yeah, so basically that's how I got involved. Also, I almost forgot, I also got involved because of UNA USA. That's actually how I met different people who could actually help me get involved in the youth space. Yeah, so
That's lovely. So you mentioned on how you got involved and it involved a lot of networking. How do you suggest folks interested in, partnering or becoming involved within DMUN go about doing that?
I would definitely say network, and don't be afraid to reach out to people. Don't be afraid to deliver new ideas. So for example, for how we did it, so we started as an advocacy NGO, and now we're actually doing consultancy. We literally go to all of these networking events, and literally as simple as getting people's business cards and emailing them about different ideas and how to improve their policies. An example of that is when we got invited to the Go South event with Salesforce and Meta. So now we actually have the contacts of Meta. So we're doing this project with Meta. We're delivering policy recommendations and how to improve the safe use of AI and building public-private partnerships. So as simple as literally, getting people's business cards and emailing them and following up, and coffee chats is also really good. So definitely, just getting yourself out there and be confident and be yourself. I think that would definitely get you somewhere.
No, that's great advice. I definitely agree. Interpersonal skills and developing relationships is a great way to get your foot in the door, or once you're even in the door to move further along. And now we're going to transition the conversation and include Mahmoud and Nadine. So we have a question for both of you. This just goes right off of what Alexa was saying earlier. Like, how does one get their foot in the door at the United Nations? And how do you start your career once you're there, or as you're still a student, or you're an early professional?
Mahmoud, do you want to go first? Well, thank you very much, Manjot, and welcome everyone. It's a great privilege to be here to speak about my experience as a UN professional in the company of people who are interested in making a career within the UN. I'm very proud to have a mission-driven career, and so I'm always happy to speak to my experience. I am a young professional, part of the Young Professionals program of the UN. I'm 2.5 years into my first appointment with the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and I started as an intern. This was in 2018. I was still a master's student then, and as part of my master's program, we were required actually to do an internship, and so I landed at the UN Environment Program in Nairobi, and that was a really excellent experience because it allowed me to get really sort of a very wide overview into the work of the UN in the environment space. Being in a truly spectacular location such as the UN headquarters in Nairobi. And it was a very hands-on job. I had a lot of opportunity to develop skills and to essentially, start to create my well-rounded profile that has landed me where I am now. So I'm happy to speak more to my path a little bit later on when I respond to questions about my current role. But for now, I'll end there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear more about that. But how about you, Mahmoud? How do you suggest individuals get their foot in the door at the United Nations?
Thank you so much, MJ. Thank you, Nadine, and thank you, Alexa. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be with you today. And I hope after this workshop, you leave with more, let's say, you leave with a clearer vision about how to navigate the UN system. Myself, I joined the UN in 2022 throughout the Young Professional Program. It's a special program to get you inside the UN. And as Nadine in 2017 was my first experience with the UN as an intern there. So to get to your question, MJ, actually it depends where you are right now. So I can provide the guidance. So it depends. If you're still a student and you don't have experience, I would suggest to go to UN volunteering or internship, because most of the positions that you might be looking for require both education and experience. We'll talk more about that. So as a starting point, and it might be silly advice, but believe me, it depends on nationality. Between 20 to 40%, 20 to 40% of applications are screened out before any recruiter process them. It means, in the first place, when you apply for the UN or any organization, read carefully the job description so you avoid wasting your time if you don't meet the qualification.
Okay, that's helpful. That's good to know. And over to Nadine, would you like to share a little bit more about your current role at the UN and how you got into it?
Yes, thank you. So I am currently Associate Program Officer at the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, specifically working within a division of the department that's called the Secretariat for the UN Forum on Forests. I know it's a mouthful, but essentially just to maybe tie it to my beginnings within the UN. After I was an intern, I became a consultant, actually. My internship allowed me to stay on. My supervisor wanted me to stay on, and so she was able to arrange some funding for me to stay on with a contract, with a fixed term contract. And so I did that for a couple more years. But eventually, I wanted to do something different. So I worked in local climate action in Portugal for some time, but I still wanted to return to the UN. So that is how I ended up applying in 2020 to the YPP program. And this, as I mentioned, is my first appointment. So you might be familiar with DESA, with the Department of Economic and Social Affairs. It's essentially the home of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the broader 2030 agenda. There's a lot of analytical work going on in the department and capacity building to essentially inform decision-making and assist member states in translating their international commitments into national policy. And the department also supports international deliberations in the context of the General Assembly, as well as the Economic and Social Council, the ECOSOC, which you might have heard of as well. And it's specifically within one of these commissions of ECOSOC that I am involved, which is the UN Forum on Forests. We are the Secretariat of the UN Forum on Forests, which means that we service the deliberations that take place within this forum. The UNFF, as it is also known, is a global policy forum working on forest issues. It is essentially the only intergovernmental forum within the UN focusing exclusively on forests. And it was established in 2000. It has universal membership, which means that all 197 member and observer states are represented. And we work closely with member states, of course, but also with other UN and non-UN entities that have portfolios on forests. So, for example, what are known as the 3 Rio Conventions, the 3 conventions dealing with climate, biodiversity, and drought and desertification, which of course are relevant to issues of forests. We work closely with them, the secretariats of those conventions, as well as the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, has a big program on forestry, and they work a lot to support countries to manage their forests in a sustainable manner. We cooperate with all of these entities, and the UNFF, very importantly, has its own strategic framework with 6 global forest goals. These are complementary to the SDGs, and perhaps the most emblematic target within this framework is Target 1.1, to increase forest area by 3% by 2030. So it's the same timeline horizon as the SDGs, as you probably noticed, and we're working very closely to assist governments in achieving these ambitions. My specific role is in supporting the intergovernmental process, so the conduct of the forum sessions, all of the logistics related to those meetings at UNHQ, which I can imagine, as you can imagine, it's quite a lot. The negotiations and the outcomes. Every year in May, member states come together and they produce some sort of resolution or other outcome that signals, their direction on forests. I also support some analytical work related to forest financing and supporting the strengthening of capacities within countries to access the necessary financial resources to be able to implement this work at national and regional level. And finally, I also support the monitoring, assessment, and reporting on forests, which is essentially helping countries to track how much progress they are making towards the implementation of these forest-related goals and gathering that information for analysis and eventually feeding it back into the process. So I'm lucky to be part of a small team. We support each other very closely, and I've had plenty of opportunities to learn from colleagues and acquire a lot of technical and policy knowledge. It's been very, very rewarding so far. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like a very rewarding career with lovely trajectory and meaningful and mission-driven work. So Mahmoud, my question to you is, how does one, start their application process? It can be quite complex and competitive, it being the UN, but how do individuals get to the point where Nadine is and have a lovely career trajectory at the UN? And what advice would you give, if you could give any candid advice about how candidates can strengthen their applications and stand out?
Yeah, great question. It might need a little bit of elaboration to tackle all the dimensions of the recruitment process in the UN. First of all, before I share a live demonstration for how to navigate the UN system, I would like to mention about how competitive the UN. So usually it depends on the category, like the level of the job opening you are applying for. But let's say you are aiming for international career. The one enables you to be relocated among the duty station, not only here in the US, if you are US national. Usually, and again, it fluctuates among nationalities. But overall, the selection rate for international staff between 0.5 and 2%.
That's competitive.
Is it? Yeah. So sometimes it might not be something with your application, nothing wrong about you. It's just the high volume of application. So there are two main advice when you apply to the UN. First, apply to the qualified applications that you see yourself qualified for. Second, try not to only apply for the most competitive duty station. I know many people like to live and work in New York or to go to Geneva to work in the UN, but believe me, even the people inside the UN, the internal staff, are applying there a lot. So in order to get the first position in the UN, try to go outside this duty station. And once you are inside the UN, relatively speaking, it's easier to change. It's easier, let's say, to go later on to Geneva or in New York. Now I would like to share a live demonstration on applying to the UN and also share some tips from my own experience. First of all, just let me know if you see my screen.
We can see it.
Great. So as someone, let's say a master's student, even a graduate, who wants to apply for the UN, first thing comes to mind that they go to Google, or I'm using Bing here, and search for UN careers. Actually, they do the right step. When they click here, as any website for any organization, you might have different options. The regular one, you just apply for jobs. and you have this kind of familiar screen where you filter for job families, network, category. I was talking about them, professional and above, which is the same for international, the level, and also the duty station or location. This is the regular one. Let's say you want to apply for professional and above and level B3, which means like it needs a master degree with 5 years of experience. And let's assume you want to apply for program management B3. So you click on this job opening. And again, I mention it, it might be very clear, but because I work in recruitment here, it ranges between 20 to 40% of applications are rejected. So around 40% of people are wasting their time without getting any result. Why? Because when they apply or fill the application, they don't read very well the requirements. And I will highlight few important things. For example, when education, they mention a master's degree or a bachelor degree. And experience. Let's say that a minimum of 5 years of experience is required here. When you read more, you will see that some of the criteria are mentioned as desirable. Okay? So you might think, okay, I don't have this kind of desirable criteria, so I can apply, which is true. However, just imagine that I am a hiring manager now, and there are around 200 applications. 150 meet the minimum requirement. What do? In this case, I invoke the desirable. So somehow the desirable here will become required. So that's why you should make sure even the desirable one, you have it. So this is very important. Second thing I want to mention here that, again, try to apply for duty station outside New York and Geneva. And I'm talking here if you want to secure your first job in the UN. Also, as I mentioned, this is the regular job opening. As any website or any organization, they have a special program. And my colleague Nadine mentioned about the YBP, which is the same program both of us joined the UN throughout it. Young Profession Program basically allow you to join the UN without having any experience because it's examination-based, merit-based process. You can look more on this program because it has specific criteria like nationality, age, etc. You can also discover the internship, also work as a consultant, volunteering opportunity. And last thing in this demo, I would like to share the following. If you search for what's called UN org chart, this one, you will see that this is the UN in general. Nadine and I are coming from the Secretariat, which means the Secretariat is only part of the UN, as you see here. What about others? Like, for example, UNDP. It's part of the UN, UNHCR, World Health Organization, World Bank. The difference is these agencies or funds, they are somehow independent. They have their own fund, their own recruitment process. For example, if you want to apply for internship in the Secretariat, it's unpaid. If you apply for an internship in the UNDP or UNICEF, for example, it's paid. So the website I was using right now, it's for the UN Secretariat. This is the first thing you find online. Now the question, how can I navigate other UN funds and programs? In the same website here, you will find what's called the UN family of organizations. When you click here, it will take you to a page that it's like a hub for all UN agencies and funds with a direct link to their recruitment website. For example, World Bank. When you click here, it will take you to something similar to the UN Secretariat. They have their own regular job opening, and also they have their own young professional program. So the idea, try to expand the network of UN agencies and not only apply for the Secretariat. Last thing I just want to say, if you really want to get into the UN, try to apply away from the competitive location. And I can give you an example, especially in the field mission. In the field mission, there is a higher chance, for example, for a female to be employed there. Why? Because as you know, in the UN, there is what's called gender parity. They are trying to reach a gender parity in the workforce. In New York and Geneva, it's mostly reached. So it's not a priority in terms of selecting a woman versus a man. If you go to the field mission, it's not the same. In the field mission, they are still looking for more qualified women because the percentage right now, on average, around 34% women versus men. So also, if you speak a specific language, let's say Spanish, try to apply for a location where this language is mostly used. For example, apply in Latin America, in ICLAC. If you speak Arabic, apply for the UN agencies, let's say in the Middle East, for let's say Beirut. So in this case, you will increase your chances. Yeah, this is basically what's on my mind right now. Maybe more question from your side, MJ, will help me to give more insights.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
you provided a wonderful insight, and the tutorial of the career website was very, very helpful, and especially the part where you say to explore different UN affiliated opportunities. It's very insightful. But in addition to what you mentioned earlier, is there anything aside from additional languages or field experience that make a candidate compelling? Like, what is something that you've seen that's really made someone seem like they could be quite successful at the UN?
I would say the experience itself they have, assuming they are applying for regular job opening, let's say B2, B3, if they have what's called relevant experience, they will receive, let's say, invite to progress in the recruitment process. So maybe this brings us to this famous advice that try to tailor each application to the job opening you are applying for, and it's true. Also, projects. If you have done projects like real result that you can show, and you can translate in terms of portfolio. If you have a portfolio, samples of your previous work, that would really be very helpful in the recruitment process. So these are, yeah, of course, if you have a master's degree, of course that the bachelor degree sometimes enough to apply for the UN, but again, if there are many applications received by the hiring manager, sometimes they invoke this criteria, so they filter based on education and master's degree. Yeah.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Sure.
So as you mentioned, the gender parity, Nadine, I want to pivot to you. This is a Women in Energy event, and there's a lot of interest across energy and sustainability, especially with our audience here today. So what's an interesting trend at the environment energy space at the UN right now?
Yes, thank you. I guess, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to some of the trends that I see currently within the climate and environment space, since it's where I'm located, specifically in Forest, as I mentioned, and hopefully it'll be useful to people hoping to step into this field. I see it very forcefully in Forest, but I think it is quite across the board, and that is a real focus on finance. As we talk about ramping up ambition towards achievement of the 2030 agenda, and specifically climate and sustainability, a lot of the conversation is centering on how do we mobilize the necessary financial resources through innovative mechanisms and other sources of finance, outside of perhaps the ones that have dominated the conversation so far. And this is really in recognition of the fact that not enough finance is currently flowing towards these priorities, right? I'm talking nature, I'm talking energy, I'm talking decarbonization, and so on, all of those things that we really care about. And this is a big challenge, right? Especially at a time when we're seeing also rising debt levels among developing countries, and some developed countries also rearranging their budgets according to new priorities. So a lot of the initiatives are now geared toward drawing private investment, not only toward nature positive or climate friendly sectors, but also away from those harmful activities. A lot of the conversation on forests is about that, right? How we know what are the main drivers of deforestation, agriculture being a big one of them, unsustainable agriculture. So how do we really incentivize and create the conditions for those investors in the private sector, as well as, of course, still in the public sector, to really reallocate and rethink those financing flows, and doing so in a way that doesn't place further burden on developing countries, right? A lot of the conversation is about about means of implementation. Just this week, the UN Environment Program released a flagship report for the first time called The State of Forest Finance. And essentially they calculated that forest investments are going to have to triple by 2030 if we intend to achieve any of these climate biodiversity goals, and of course also the global forest goals that I mentioned earlier. That's going from 84 billion annually currently to over 300 billion annually, just in forests, imagine. Of course, we also saw at Baku at COP29 last year, decisions on a new quantified collective goal on finance more broadly, and in the upcoming COP30 in Brazil, that's going to be continue to be a big priority to really getting those commitments up to scale. In the forest space, we're very excited about a new initiative that is expected to come out of COP30 next month, called the Tropical Forest Forever Facility. It is an initiative of Brazil that essentially prioritizing what I just said, combining public financing sources with private sources into a fund that is specifically geared towards tropical forest countries and rewarding them for protecting and expanding their tropical forests. So this is a new model, or sort of an evolution of existing models, into something that could really move the needle on halting and reversing deforestation. So there's a lot of hope on that, and Brazil has already announced some commitments, and other actors will surely step up. So I guess, to wrap this up and bring this to the original question, and to leave here a message for people attending this event, whatever your background is. I personally don't have a finance background or much of a quantitative background, to be honest, but existing within the space in the current time, this is really something that's being talked about a lot. So I would encourage you to familiarize yourself with some of these trends, concepts, and key actors, as you will surely come across them when you enter the field.
That was really helpful and insightful. Thank you for that. So we're at our last two questions before we open it up to audience Q&A. So Mahmoud, could you share where you see the most growth or hiring demand across the sectors within the UN? And what kind of profiles and degrees are the most relevant to said roles?
Thank you for this question, MJ. Before I forget, also I want to add to the previous question that they should prepare to what's called CBI, competency-based interview. It's very common in the UN. This is a special kind of interview that has nothing to do with skills. It's not technical interview. Basically, it's a way to share your experience in a specific format, story format. Usually they recommend either Carl or STAR method. The context, the action you took, and the result, and what did you learn. So usually it comes in this format, like tell me about an incident or a previous experience where you did certain things. Let's say on planning and organizing, can you share with us a previous experience where you had to plan for a specific project? What was the challenge and what was the result? How did you react for that? So as I see, many people fail in this stage not because they lack the experience, not because they don't have something to share. It's only about that they are not or they didn't learn how to share this kind of answers and this kind of format. Because for the people who are evaluating, they are following a kind of rubric that has certain indicators. So just keep it in mind, CPI, you will need it later or sooner if you are applying for the UN. Now for your question, MJ, usually now the UN is heading toward skill-based organization. So no longer about the majors or let's say field of study. So basically, regardless of your major in the UN or regardless of the job opening you are applying for, keep these 5 skills in mind. Data analytics, business transformation, digital innovation, behavioral science, and for sure, as I said, the master degree will be very relevant and needed in case there are a lot of applications received. But in terms, let's say, of area of work, and we call them here job network or job family, I'm going to share numbers. So usually the top one area of work here is program management and administration. Across all duty station, across all entities, and across all type of field of study, like even in the, let's say, regional commission, where economists are really needed and a lot of reports and analytics are made. Also, a lot of program managers are needed. So let's say for the next 10 years, around 40% of the retirements are gonna happening in this area, program management and administration. Then in terms of numbers now, I'm talking in terms of retirement, the next one is economic affairs. The third one, it's political affairs and human rights. Then it comes after that, finance, auditing, engineering, science, etc. So this is basically how the UN workforce is composed. But back to what I started, it's now more about skills and about, let's say, projects, and how can you communicate such project or experience in your CV, in your resume, and in your interview.
That was a lot of detail, very helpful. It's interesting to see like the stress on data analytics, business transformation, innovation, digitalization, behavioral science. I think that we're seeing that industry, not just UN specific, but across various different industries. It seems like there's a pattern of similar skill sets folks are looking for. But so thank you for sharing that. That was very helpful. And back to Nadine, how would you describe the current level of access for US nationals, women, and those entering mid-career? So not necessarily just a student, but or maybe not even someone who would meet the young professional program, but somebody who's a seasoned professional and wants to pivot into work at the UN.
Well, I'll focus on the advice. I'm not sure if Mahmoud has something to say about the access aspect, and then I'll give it back to him at the end in case he wants to add something, but I'll focus on the advice as from my experience. First of all, let me just endorse everything that Mahmoud has said so far. It certainly rings true for me in my journey, and I've actually learned some nuggets. So thank you, Mahmoud. I'll be implementing those as I craft my journey moving forward. But I guess, just to emphasize a couple points, definitely consider the wide range of opportunities at your disposal to get your foot in the door. The UN volunteers is also, I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, there's options for people who are further along in their career to also have experiences through there. And, any sort of mix of experiences that you can add to your resume will improve your profile and will also, hopefully be a rewarding experience in and of itself. For the YPP, from my experience, I would say to start early. There's an age limit of 32. I actually applied by last opportunity, don't do that. Because, you know, the earlier you apply, the more opportunities you have, of course. And also keep in mind that the process can take a while, right? So you need to be patient, be flexible, understand that, you know, your first appointment might not be, you know, exactly perhaps within your target area, but the program is designed to allow you to get to where you want to be eventually. On the competency-based interview, absolutely 100% agree. It is actually a gift because you can prepare for it so well. It's essentially, you know, all of the competencies are very well described online. The values, the UN values are described online. There's sample questions. So if you really do your homework and you essentially prepare scenarios or sample responses, you're likely to do very well. And of course, understand the diversity of the UN system and just the plethora of different, I guess, configurations that can come from there. That took me a while to understand. So having that handy organizational chart is definitely an asset. So go Google that as well. Happy to respond to more questions if there's anything more concrete in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, there's lots of questions in the chat. So I'm going to jump in if that's okay, MJ. Do you
Yes,
want to
of
follow up
course.
with what Nadine said?
I think we're good to start with the Q&A, but Nadine, thank you for the insight. I found it very useful and helpful for me as well, and Mahmoud as well. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
Mahmoud,
of
I
course.
yeah, thank you, MJ. That was, I think, really helpful. And Mahmoud, you got a lot of love in the chat for your presentation. So I think that was really insightful. I actually just want to go back to Alexa first, though. Alexa, talk a little bit about, you used an acronym to talk about how you first got involved with the DMUN. Talk a little bit about what that acronym is. And I'd also love to hear kind of, and now that you've had this experience with the UN and all of this work, where do you kind of see your career going next?
In your first question, so basically I got involved with the civil society space. It's with the United Nations Association of the United States of America. I'm actually their global goals ambassador right now. So actually my friend connected me to Major Youth for Children and Youth. So I was at the World Bank Youth Summit, and then I got connected to Major Youth for Children and Youth, and then that's how I got connected to the DMUN Foundation. So basically that's how I did it. It's through, you know, the colleagues I worked with in different NGOs. So when they found out that I was interested in women's rights and finance and economics, they introduced me to the DMUN Foundation, and that's basically how I got involved. Yeah.
Great.
So
And what do you plan to do? Because you're currently in school, right?
yes, I'm a grad student actually. I specialize in economic policy and security policy. So I actually used to intern for the State Department. I finished my internship last April at the Bureau of the Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations. Like what I plan to do, I'm actually looking into finance. So I'm looking into the private sector right now. But right now, I've been busy with the DMUN Foundation. Actually, just started a project with the World Bank. We're planning to put like a youth civil society constituency at the World Bank. So it's one of our biggest projects. We just partnered up with them during the annual meetings, because I'm actually in the World Bank and IMF meetings right now. So we just actually secured a partnership, and we're doing a lot of consultancy. It's still in the works. So that's what I've been doing right now. But yeah, I do see myself working in the private sector, and then maybe going back to the public sector in the future. So possibly State Department or Treasury. Yeah, so
Thank
yes,
you.
that's
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, we have a lot of questions, so I'm gonna try to do a bit of rapid fire if we can. We have about 11 minutes left. So one question is, I've heard that the UN recruiting process is very long. Can you give an overview of the process and timelines for someone with work experience, mid-level career? Mahmoud, I think that is geared toward you.
Yeah, so it depends on the entity you are applying for. So some entities in the UN are known for their long process. Some entities, like for example, SCAP is known for their fast process in the recruitment. However, on average, it takes around, right now, I'm talking, it takes around more than 6 months to complete. Actually, for example, the YPP itself might take around 1 year to complete. So it's long. So don't just apply for one or only for the UN and wait. Apply and keep going in your life. Yeah. Also part of the delay in the process, the nature of the UN. The UN is very bureaucratic organization. So a lot of layers of approval should be made until the offer is made. And right now, all of you have heard about the financial crisis the UN is going through and the member state contribution to the regular budget. So also that might affect. So the vacancy or the job opening might be there, but there is no enough fund to recruit for that. So keep in mind, it might take a few months until you get any kind of result. Also keep in mind that many entities don't get to applicants when they are screened out. For example, if you applied for economic affairs and you don't meet certain criteria and you are screened out, you might not receive a response. This is not the ultimate we aim for, but I'm just sharing the reality so you can adjust your expectation.
Okay, so it's somehow between around 6 months and a year, depending. There have been, there are budget issues, so some roles are not actually being filled.
Yes.
And it takes time, so apply to multiple roles.
Yeah.
Also your advice that you qualify for. Nadine and Mahmoud, can you talk a little bit about your language and education backgrounds? Do you both have your master's degree, and what languages do you speak? I think that would just be, I think there's a lot of questions around languages and which languages are good and bad from the UN perspective.
Go ahead, Nadine.
Yes, I think it depends on the role, correct, Mahmoud? I think at a base level, I hope I'm not wrong with this, but I think you are expected to speak at least 2 official languages. Is that correct, Mahmoud? In my case, Spanish, English, Portuguese, the more the better, of course, especially, you're working directly with member states, as in my case, it's always, helpful to be able to speak to them in their language, but it really depends on the role is what I would say.
I would ask Nadine, your team, the folks that you work most closely with, are they all mostly trilingual or quadlingual or speak, or is it really vary?
Yeah, I think at the very least bilingual. Some people more. I have a Brazilian colleague who speaks 4 languages. She walks in and it's just like, showing off left and right. I'd love to see it. But it really depends on the job. In our job, I would say 95% of what we do is in English because that is the lingua franca, it's the common language of our process. French as the other sort of big one, and depending on the duty station as well, I can imagine colleagues in Geneva find themselves speaking French much more often. But I wouldn't say that it's a big barrier, especially if you have 2 languages at a comfortable level.
And do you have your master's degree?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mahmoud, how about for you?
I would like just to add that either English or French is required. It means if you neither have English nor French, you cannot apply for the UN.
Okay.
And the level is intermediate, let's say level 2 and above. On some job openings, for example, might request for higher. So in each job opening, there is a specific section for language where they state what's required and what's desired. So let's say the required is English. And for the desirable, it might help the hiring manager later on if they have, let's say, the same level qualified applicants and they want to reduce the number, they might invoke this criteria. They want to go with the applicant that can speak a language that's spoken in the duty station. As Nadine mentioned, in Geneva, French, in Beirut, in Middle East, in Lebanon, Arabic, let's say. So if you only have English, you are fine. But the more, let's say, official languages like Spanish, Arabic, Russian, Chinese you have, more opportunity will open for you in the UN.
Okay, how many languages do you speak, Mahmoud?
I speak 3: English, Arabic, and German, and I'm trying to learn French. For the question about education, I only have a bachelor degree in economics.
Okay.
And the reason I joined the UN was because the YBP that has no requirement for a master degree.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple questions about schooling because I think we have a lot of students who are with us. The first is, there's really two, not a lot, but two. Is someone who's currently completing their bachelor's, are there internship opportunities for those folks, undergraduate students?
Yes, they can. Whether they are in bachelor, master, or even PhD, they can apply for internship as long as they are in the third term. For example, in the last year. So if they are in a bachelor degree, it's a 3 years program. If they are in the third year, they are allowed to apply. If they have a master degree and they are currently enrolled, also they can apply for internship. Assuming they graduated within the first year of the graduation, it's possible for them to do internship.
Okay. And if I'm a master's student currently in my master's, can I apply for a full-time role?
Yeah, if you meet the criteria, yes.
Okay, great.
If you meet the criteria. But usually I would advise that if it's international position, let's finish the master degree, then apply. Because again, I'm not discouraging, I'm just sharing the reality with you. Many people with a master degree apply, and hiring manager most of the time find themselves shortlisting for people with a master degree.
Okay. And then do you have data on, I'm sure you don't, but I just want to ask, on how many of the young professionals program have ultimately, like Nadine, like you, have ultimately gone on for more permanent positions?
Yeah, so usually in the YBP program, by the way, it's like the total number of, let's say, staff employed in the UN throughout this program is around 10%. So
Okay.
the 90%, the remaining 90% is just the regular job opening you see online. So on average, around 60 people join the UN every year throughout the young professional program. In terms of success rate, it depends on the nationality. Not all nationalities are the same, but I'm giving now averages. It ranges between 5 to 10% success rate. So once you apply to the YPP, you have a chance between 5 to 10% to get selected.
Okay. That is really helpful. I think that covers, I mean, there are many other questions, but I think when is the YPP program going live?
Next month.
Next month. Wonderful. And then for folks who want to reach out to you all, for Alexa, Nadine, and Mahmoud, and MJ too, if they're interested in BlackRock or the Women in Energy Fellowship, what's the best way to do that?
I mean, you can just write my name in LinkedIn. It will appear directly, the same photo I have in my Zoom. So it's easy to find me.
Great.
Same, I'm also on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Alexa, how about for you?
I'm on LinkedIn as well, but I could send out my email in the chat.
Wonderful.
Okay.
All right, great. And we're at time. So I want to thank Nadine, Alexa, Mahmoud, and MJ for joining us today. I think this was so incredibly informative. Thank you, Alexa, for putting your email in the chat. We will post this video on the Women Energy website sometime in the next week or two for those of you who want to watch it again for further details. But thank you all for your time, and hope to see you at a future in-person Women in Energy event. Bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Good
nice
luck,
day.
everyone.
Bye.